In this lesson we're going to look at how to pass outcome 2 of the Unit 2 NAB of Higher Maths. This is the integration section and you need 8 out of 11 to pass it. So let's start at question 3. We have to do some simple integration here. Now we have to integrate 6 over x cubed with respect to x. Integration is the process of adding 1 to the power and dividing by that new power. But before we do that, we have to take the x cubed up, so that becomes 6x to negative 3. And that's worth a mark. Add 1 to the power, so it becomes negative 2, and then divide by that new power. Remember to add your constant term. So divide negative 6 by negative 2, and you get 3. X to the minus 2, get a mark for that. And then remember in your plus c, you get a mark for that, 3 marks. Question 4 is out of 5. So if you get these two correct, you've passed the NAB. The curve y equals x cubed times 3 minus x is shown in the diagram below. Calculate the shaded area enclosed between the curve and the x-axis between 0 and 3. So integration calculates the area under the curve trapped between the curve and the x-axis between the limits that you put into it. So we have to integrate this function between 0 and 3. So that's what we're doing there. We get a mark for known to integrate. Before we can start integrating, we have to multiply the brackets out. So we're going to have 3x cubed take away x to the power 4. Identifying the correct limits, 3 and 0, gets you a mark. So none to integrate and just putting the limits in, then you'll get 2 marks out of 5. We now start to integrate, so we need to add 1 to the power and divide. So that's going to be 4 up here and divide by 4. 3/4. Put this in square brackets. Add 1 to the power and divide, so that's going to be a fifth, x to the power 5, and then put your 3 and your 0 in. So we're at 3 out of 5 at the moment. We then have to substitute the limits into this. So we substitute the 3 first, the upper limit. That's the limit furthest to the right hand side, or the most positive one. So the 3 goes in here and here. And then we subtract, substituting 0 in. Well, that just comes to 0 anyway, because when you do 0 to the power 4 and multiply it, this whole thing will go to 0. So we can just write take away 0. So that's 4 marks so far. For the final mark, we have to evaluate this. So you've got a calculator for this, so this shouldn't be too bad. 3 to the power 4, and then times it by 3, comes to 243 over 4. And 3 to the power 5 over 5, 243 over 5. Change them into 20ths, and it comes to this. Multiply that by 5 to get 20, and the top by 5 to get this number. Multiply it across to get 20, and the top to get 972, and finally 243 over 20. Okay, last question. Now the diagram shows the line with the equation y equals 2x take away 3 and the curve with the equation y equals x squared minus 5x take away 3. Write down the integral which represents the shaded area. Do not carry out the integration. This is a very important part because people do it. You don't need to carry out the integration, that's why it's only worth 3 marks. So when we are integrating this, we want to do the upper function subtracted the lower function. The upper function is a straight line here. If you pick any point in the middle here, then you can see that this point is higher than this point. That point's in the straight line, and this point's on the curve. So the straight line's the upper function. Now what we don't have here is the limits of integration, this point here and this point here, so we have to work them out. The easiest way to do that is let y equal y, find out where the two graphs intersect each other. So doing that gets you a mark. Take everything over one side, So you're going to subtract 2x to get minus 7, you're going to add 3 to get 0, so you're just going to end up with this. Take out a common factor of x, and you're going to get either x is 0 or x is 7 for your second mark. So we have to integrate using 0 and 7 as our limits. So we integrate between 0 and 7, and the upper function we said was a straight line, so it's 2x take away 3, put it in brackets, then take away the lower function, and that's all we have to do for the last mark there. We don't actually have to carry out the integration. It says up here, do not carry out the integration.